Hi, welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek. So right off the bat, I want to show two albums that I bought. There's only two. Now, I have my tripod on a weird angle, and I'm trying to figure out, a really good position to keep it in. I have one of these tripods with like a bendy, attachment. And I'm really trying to find the best angle. So anyways, this one, I feel like this is super close. So you're getting a super close-up of Garage Geek. Hope that doesn't upset you. Don't eat dinner while you're watching this video. Okay, so I bought, look, I have to go like way back so that you could see the cover. So I bought this Windham Hill, it's a Windham Hill sampler. Is that what that says? No, Windham Hill Artists. I got that for $2, and I couldn't pass that up because look at that. I don't think the gorgeous cover comes through. You can't see all the stars in the photo. It's a really, really pretty cover. And it's a really good album. And I also bought The Space Lady. I made a video on this. I urge you, of all my videos, I think that this is one of, maybe not my best, I don't know, but I think this is an important one. So if you haven't watched that video, would you please watch that after this? So she was, or I don't think she's still performing, but she's a street musician that I often heard when I was in San Francisco. Okay, so those are the only recordings that I bought this week. So I'm gonna start off with I had a kind of rotten week. I didn't get much done. So Monday morning, I woke up for work, and my as I woke up, my husband was like, "Hey, could you not go to work today?" And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" He was like, "Oh, I don't feel well, and I don't want to be alone." So I was like, "That's really weird." And so I said, "Of course, I won't go to work." So I called in, I set up for a sub, all that stuff. And so he said he had at 3 in the morning, and so I got up at 6:45, something like that. And at 3 in the morning, he had this like heavy burning in the center of his chest. And then he couldn't move his arm. He couldn't lift up his arm. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to go to the clinic. But we had to watch my sister-in-law's dog for a little while because they had to go to the dentist. And so when they came back, I was like, okay, let's go to the clinic. So I was watching him to make sure everything was okay. So we go to the clinic, and they take his blood, and they're like, oh, your troponin levels are really high. Of course, I don't know what that means. And they're like, you should have called an ambulance. You should have called 911 as soon as this happened. So it happened at 3 in the morning, and he didn't tell me until 6:50. And they're like, no, you have to go to the emergency room right now. And they made me sign a paper because they wanted to, get him in an ambulance. I'm like, but the hospital's just like around the corner on the next block. And so I had to sign a paper saying that I was going to take full responsibility for him. But I mean, he was totally fine. It wasn't, I mean, he was still experiencing a little pain. So we go over to the hospital, and it's like an all-day affair. Like we were sitting in the waiting room, and he would give blood, and then they would check the blood every hour. So it was like they just were doing that, and the waiting room was packed. So this is one kind of criticism I have, right? Urgent care didn't want us. You can't go to your doctor because you can't go to your doctor without an appointment. So you're forced to go to the emergency room, basically, and they're packed. So, and I'm not saying anything bad about the hospital. They're great. And so finally they tell us, hey, no, there's something wrong, and we need to admit you, and we just want to, I mean, they didn't say there's something wrong. They're like, we need to observe you, we need to know what's going on, this is not normal, right? And so they said, we're definitely giving you a room. And it was around 10 o'clock when I said, no, I'm gonna go home. And so I went home, and he didn't get a room until 5 in the morning. So poor guy, from 10 at night until 5 in the morning. But I was pretty tired from being at the hospital all day, and I needed to take care of our animals. So I needed to go home. Anyway, and they needed food, and they needed to be, let out and everything to go to the bathroom. So I got home. I was so tired, and his cell phone ran out, so he couldn't contact me. So I after the whole day of not knowing what's going on, I go back to the hospital after work, and they're like, "Oh, he told me, oh, they had to operate." I was like, "What?" So, I'm thinking primitive, like they have to cut open your chest. No, they don't do that anymore. So they took like this tube and they stuck it all the way through his arm, all the way, oh, I think it was this arm, all the way into his heart. And it turns out he had a blockage, and the pain was from the other part of his heart not getting oxygen. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he said he was able to actually watch what they were doing, because it was kind of like a camera, and it was going in all the way through his arm. But he was really groggy. He said it was really difficult to stay awake through it, and he finally just fell asleep. But yeah, he got to see the camera going into his heart and everything. And what they did was he had a blockage from plaque buildup, so basically cholesterol, not eating right, which this is an ongoing problem we've had for years. Anyways, they put like a mesh in there, and it just pops open the blockage. And he's got to be on blood thinners for a year to keep that open, and he's got to take some other medication. But he needs to drastically change his diet, and he's known that he was actually on high cholesterol diet and pills before, and he got better and he stopped. But then he went back to his bad eating habits. Now the problem is we have different diets, because I'm a vegan and he's not. And so his sister will cook all these meaty foods, and a lot of the diet, which I'm not saying eating meat is bad, it's the amount that they eat, right? And so he needs to change all that. Anyways, long story short, Monday, Tuesday, and then he finally came home Wednesday. And so I was, of course, going to the hospital each day and spending, time there. The one good thing about going to the hospital, though, is I really love their cafeteria. Their cafeteria food is good. They have vegan options, and I love that. I don't know if I've ever said on here before that I'm vegan. I do cheat. Like sometimes if I go out and there's cheese on things, I'll be okay with that. But I try to stay away from most animal products. So I don't know if I've said that before. That's just a personal choice in my life. I don't do it for diet reasons. I do it because of animal cruelty. I don't like that. Anyways, that was a whole like half of the week, and it was just really busy and tiring. Always, going to the hospital and everything. But he's fine now. He's home, and he's going to have to be on his medication. We have to set up an appointment with the doctor and all that stuff. So all's well that ends well. It's very lucky that it was just a minor incident, because he shouldn't have waited those hours we should have taken him to the emergency room. But we know now, and it was better that it happened early and not so serious, so that we can catch it and move on from there. Okay, so this week I actually watched 4 movies, and 3 of them with my husband. So even though he was in the hospital, we watched. No, I only watched 2 with me. 2 of them my husband didn't watch, but he was here, and then the other 2 we watched since he was back from the hospital. So the first movie that we watched, or I watched actually, was my husband was too tired. He didn't want to watch it. So it was last week, and it was, I think, the night before Halloween, or 2 nights before Halloween. So a YouTuber that I've mentioned a lot of times is Square the Circle, and he was doing his countdown. And in his countdown, there were 2 Movies. From all the movies that he mentioned, two of them that I hadn't seen. One was The Lady in White, and the other one was The Changeling. And I couldn't find The Lady in White streaming, but I was able to find The Changeling, and I believe it was on Tubi. Now, The Changeling, I got the picture of it, so hold on. Where is it? Here it is. So I pulled it up on my dirty iPad. Okay, this angle is weird. I'm not used to this angle. So sorry if I'm gonna be a little bit okay, now I can't even make it bigger. I'm so inadequate. All right, here we go. So here's the movie. Oh, I'm sorry. My iPad looks dirty. All those fingerprints. So there's the cover of it. You can see there's like a wheelchair that's empty with its cobwebs. I know it's hard to see. And then in the reflection, there's like in the shadow, you see someone sitting in the wheelchair. So this is a movie from 1980. It's a classic ghost story. It was a lot of fun. It is from 1980, so it is going to be reflective of the times. But if you immerse yourself and allow yourself to be taken along for a ride, it's a fun movie. It stars George C. Scott and Trish Vanderveer. Now, as someone in the comments for Square the Circle wrote, Trish Vanderveer is George C. Scott's wife. I didn't know that. So they're married and they're starring in the movie together. And it was about, I'll try not to spoil, but a man who lost his family in a tragic accident moves into this mansion run by a historical society. And it's kind of an accident that he goes into that home. Like the majority of the historical society never rented this house, but they hired someone new. And before they knew about it, she had let this man rent out the mansion because she was excited about it being a historical site and wanted it to be kept up. And in the mansion, he starts, hearing all the typical ghost things, like he's hearing knocking and he's hearing, just noises throughout. And I won't go ahead and spoil it for you, but it's kind of a really sad story. And I mean, the title might give away what's going on, but I don't want to talk any more about it than that. If you're interested, I recommend it. It's a fun movie that will, has some chills in it. And I think the whole subject matter is tragic enough that not only it'll be poignant or sad, tragic way. So I'll move on from there. I recommend it. I also recommend, if you want, watch Square the Circle's countdown. I actually really look forward to it every night, and now that he's no longer doing it, I kind of miss that. It was nice that I was looking forward to one video every day, and there was like this routine, and a couple times he was really late, and I didn't want to go to bed until he posted his video because I wanted to know what movie he was going to watch, and it was just kind of a fun thing, and that's what YouTube's all about, I think, this interaction. So I really enjoyed that. So the next movie I watched, I don't think I'm doing them in order. So the next one that I have is, oh wait, this picture is a little better. I actually brought that up. So you can see the cobwebs on the wheelchair. Better. Okay. The next one that I have is Don't Knock Twice. Okay, so that's Don't Knock Twice, and I don't know if you can notice that, but if you are a sci-fi nerd, you know who that is. There's absolutely no way. If you don't know who that is and you are a sci-fi nerd, you're not. Okay, so that's Katie Sackhoff, and she was obviously one of the stars of the new Battlestar Galactica series. Okay, so I think she's a very interesting actress. She's had a bunch of movies and like Netflix shows, and I followed her career. I find her to be a very interesting actress. And then in this movie, she plays against type. Usually she's known for being very outward and aggressive kind of person. But in this one, she's shy and restrained. So that was a different role for her to play. This is a type of movie where there's an urban legend, like, you know, the ones where you shouldn't say something in the mirror so many times, which that was actually going around when I was a kid. That was kind of scary. So these urban legend movies where you're not supposed to do something, they're actually really kind of creepy, because I remember some of those from a childhood. My older sister would do some of these things, and you know, when she'd have a sleepover or something, it was I just remember that was kind of scary, because I was younger than them, and they were doing these things, and they would, you know, go into the mirror in the dark and say things, and yeah. But anyways, this one, you're not supposed to knock twice. So apparently a woman burned to death in her house, and she became a witch, and so anybody who knocks twice on her door will be taken. I enjoyed this movie. It had a kind of twist at the end. I think I'd actually seen this one before, but I didn't remember it. And that might say something about the movie, right? It's really, really enjoyable, but ultimately forgettable. Because once we started it, my husband and I, we've seen it. And we were both like, yeah, but we don't remember it, so let's just watch it anyway. The actual, I want to show a picture of the witch in it, if I can find it. I had it before. Because it's kind of like one of those really tall, skinny, you know, I guess that's, right now, that's kind of like really scary. Someone who's like really emaciated and spindly. And I think they use that in The Ring. They use that in so many movies. I guess current horror, you know, that's just scary. Someone who's too tall and thin. Another movie that I watched by myself was The Northman. Now, I never get this name right, no matter what. I had to write that down. I always get it mixed up with The Norseman. And there is Norse mythology in this movie. And The Northmen. I guess there's another movie actually called The Norseman. And this is the movie by Robert Eggers. And I've been waiting for this movie to come out. So there's the movie poster of it, right? That's the guy from True Blood. What's his name? Alexander Skarsgård. He's even got a cool name. Alexander Skarsgård. Okay. But dude, he's buff. Now, he's not my type. I'm not saying that because he's my type, but wow, is he buff in this movie. Like, he was buff in True Blood. Was he? Or maybe he just looked good with his shirt off. And again, he's not my type. But wow, he is like so buff. Like, I'm talking, he's got these muscles here, like, and they have him with his shirt off a lot, which is smart, right? So anyways, that's not why I like this movie. I really did enjoy this movie. I'm a fan of this director. Basically, there's no plot. It's like a revenge movie. That's the whole movie, right? What are you barking about? So he's, throughout the whole movie, he's just trying to get revenge. Like, there's no plot. But it's so enjoyable. And so you probably know Robert Eggers from The Witch. Like, he made such a huge impact with that movie. And it is a really, really good movie. And then I think he's had another one. I forgot to look it up. But he also did The Lighthouse, which divided so many people. I loved it. There were people who were screaming like it was the worst waste of time in their entire lives. Like, they were saying, like, I'll never get those hours back. Like, I would rather scratch my eyes out than watch that movie. I think that's going a little bit too far. It had Robert Pattinson, from Batman and, Twilight. And it had Willem Dafoe and just the cinematography alone in that movie. Which in this movie too, the cinematography in The Lighthouse was so amazing. And then I loved all, like, the imagery, the symbolism. I don't know. I won't talk about that movie because I didn't watch it. But if you hated that movie, please let me know in the comments because I think that's hysterical. I love how a movie can like so divide people. Like it was a masterpiece. It was a total pile of stinking turds. It's like, and it's either one or the other. You don't find people saying, it was okay. Like I've never heard someone say that. It's either they love it or they hated it. So anyways, about the Northman, I also heard people saying that it was long and boring. I didn't find it so at all. So I guess I connect with this director. I really enjoy his movies. And then the final one that we watched last night, which was called Antlers. And I believe it's new on Hulu. So let me see if I can bring that one up. Antlers. Now, in the movie, it's important that there's a child. This movie has so much child abuse and murder. And it's not that that's what it's about. It happens a lot. And it's really interesting that I think that was taboo before. I don't know if they did have child murders in old movies. And one of my favorite movies was Gene Tierney. That movie is just amazing. When I don't know what movie, what's the name of it? It's one of my favorites. I can't remember the movie. When she's out on the boat on the water and the poor kid is crippled and she pushes him out of the boat and she's got the paddle and she won't let him back in. Twisted. It's an amazing movie, but I just spoiled like one of the best scenes. I don't think that can be topped. The coldness of Gene Tierney in that movie can't be topped. Okay, so anyways, why was I talking about that? Oh yeah, all the child killings in this movie. So this movie is about people making meth, and they come across this like this Indian type burial ground, like in mines. So they're not burial grounds. I think they're like holding a spirit in there, and it turns out to be the spirit of the Wendigo. Now the Wendigo, I think, is a really, really interesting legend. So I first learned about the Wendigo from Marvel Comics because Wolverine's first appearance is with the Hulk and they're fighting the Wendigo, and they actually go through the history. So it's a curse where if you eat human flesh, you turn into this creature who must constantly feed, but the more you feed, the more hungry you become. Like you can never satiate your hunger. And that's what's going on in this movie. So the father of the father has two kids. And when we first meet the father, the makeup is so good. They're all methed out. And when you actually look at the guy's picture online, he's so handsome. And then you see, like, when I first see him in the movie, like, he's, all methed out. I don't know what the term of that is. He's a meth head. I hate to say that, but you could tell, like, he's suffering from the effects of meth, okay? But he's making this lab. And the problem is he's with his child, and he and his child become infected with this Wendigo thing. And I don't know why they didn't eat any. Now that I'm come to think of it, they didn't eat any human flesh. Okay, whatever. So they have the desire now to eat human flesh, and so the other son who wasn't infected, the father realizes what's happening, and he builds a lock on the door, and they have to be locked in the room, and the other son has to take care of them. And the way we find out about this is there's a woman at school who was a victim of abuse. They go over that abuse as well. And she's been a victim of abuse, and so this child is in her class and he's being abused, but not because of what she thinks. It's a more emotional abuse, and he's actually starving too because he doesn't have enough food, because he's going out and killing all these animals, or gathering up carcasses and bringing them to the father and the brother. So I think I'm giving away too much of this movie. Why am I doing this? I think I really enjoyed this movie. Sorry, I'm spoiling this. I shouldn't have done that. I just went off on this movie, right? I shouldn't have spoiled that for you. I'm going to stop right there and say you should watch this. It's a fun movie, but it does involve a lot of child abuse and a lot of child murders. I don't think I enjoy that, but it's kind of coming up a lot. There was another movie that I didn't mention that in, so I might be spoiling another movie that I talked about, but it's that's in it. Okay, so those are the 4 movies we watched, and I watched. I watched 2 of them, and I watched 2 with my husband. The book. Holy crap! It's 25 minutes already. I can't believe. How can I? I thought I wouldn't be talking about anything tonight, and here I am already at 25 minutes. This is crazy. Okay, so this week I read the book The Colony. And I'm trying to, I want to show that the book. Okay, there it is. The Colony. Now, this book was called Audrey McGee, and it was stunning. I absolutely loved it. Now, I'm gonna show you. So this is the Booker Prize webpage, and those are the Booker Prize long list and short list. So I'm a huge fan of this. I try to read as many as I can. So right now, maybe you can see it. The Colony is up there at the top of the long list. So at this point, I've read The Colony, Nightcrawling, Trust, and Old William. I've talked about the 3 of those. So The Colony is really difficult to wrap up in a couple minutes, but wow, have I been, just talking on and on. And you know what? I need to sip my coffee. Viewership is going down. Sorry about that. Okay, so how do I wrap this up? Like, how do I explain this really fast? So The Colony is it starts off with a British painter going to a remote island where there are only Irish people, and there are Gaelic speakers there, and it's kind of dying out. There's a Gaelic. There are some people on the island who only speak Gaelic, and then there's another man who's been going to that island for 5 years, and he's charting the progress and writing about the progress of the death of this language. Although he's actually taking active roles in trying to preserve it. So, in the midst of all this, it's the book is called The Colony because it's really about the effects of colonization. And throughout the book, the author also puts historical events where the IRA, the IRA, Irish Republican Army, and okay, I'm really bad with this. So this is actually one of the points that's difficult for me because I've never experienced that, and I'm a little bit muddy on both sides, but I just know that I don't want to use the wrong word because I don't want to make people angry, but basically Ireland, the Irish wanted Ireland for themselves, and they wanted the British out. So I don't want to offend anybody by sounding ignorant. So that's kind of playing out on this island, and just the writing was fascinating. They were going in and out of the different characters' points of views, and you're getting kind of like this microcosm of what's going on in the outer world, but also the island starts to be affected by all these violent acts that are happening in England and Ireland. And it's just a fascinating book. It's a really, really well-written book. I highly recommend it. And so that's The Colony. So that's my 4th in that list. You can see I got my notes. And I'm very lucky because I got a whole bunch of books in, and I've got 4 more on the Booker Prize list. Glory Booth, Maps of Secular Bodies, and Small Things Like These. So I've got 4 more Booker Prize. That'll bring me to 8 when I'm finished. 8 of the 13. So I'm doing well, although I only have 4 of the 13 right now. But hey, I'm on my way. Now, I'm going to finish this very quickly. Oh my gosh, I'm 30 minutes already. So what have I been listening to this week? I've been listening to Sturgill Simpson's Sound and the Fury, and that is for a challenge with Chris at Record Talk. Now, I gave him One Stormy Night, and I am so looking forward to what he has to say about this, because I dealt him a plate of strong cheese, but it's cheese that I love. I love this album. But if he doesn't like it, it's totally fine. It's a very, very strange album. I just thought that since he doesn't mind going through bargain bins, that if anyone would give this album some kind of justice, maybe he would. But if he hates it, it's totally fine. It won't diminish the fact that I love this cheesy album. And then, and so we're both gonna post our videos tomorrow, and I'm also gonna post one of a triad video. So myself, Guz69, and T-Cat, and I'm allowed to call him T-Cat. He gave me permission. But let me try T-Cat's Deep Final Tracks. Did I get it right, T-Cat? So anyways, he said I'm allowed to call him T-Cat. So we're doing a triad. So I gave them a classical music piece that I love. I gave the same one to 2 other people. And Goose69 gave us a heavy metal instrumental album, which is really interesting. It's by a Brazilian group called Labirinto. And T-Cat gave us an album from the Jones Sisters. And I can't wait to look this album up, because those are not sisters. Well, anyways, so those videos are coming tomorrow. There will be 3, one from each of us, reviewing all those albums. And then I'm also working on 3 others, which are surprises. So that's what I've been listening to this week. Now, Goose69, I have to apologize, because I did want to watch another video from the series that I've been discussing, that you've been recommending. I didn't have time this week, what with everything going on. But I promise, well, I shouldn't promise, but hopefully next week I will watch 1 or 2 of them, and I'll be able to talk about those. Thank you all for watching. If you did this far, I'm sorry. I tried to keep it at 30 minutes, and I really thought tonight I had nothing to talk about, and here I am already at 33 minutes. I'm just a blabbermouth. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you're here this far, thank you for sticking around. And I'm going to try to make a bunch of videos this weekend to make up for the fact that I think I only put out 1 video this week, and that was of the altar that we had. Oh, so that was another thing I didn't mention, right? So we had our altar, and we had the if you want, you could see the video. So we had the altar set up for the pets, and then after a couple days you change that, and then you set it up for the humans who come. And so if you haven't seen it, it's only 50 seconds. It's not even a minute. If you want to see what the altar looked like, it's not an amazing altar if you look at, probably people on YouTube, but for us, it's always very special. And I always appreciate all the work that my husband and his sister put into doing this. And they include my family on the altar as well. And I really appreciate the fact that my husband always makes sure that my dad has coffee. And normally he goes to McDonald's, because my dad used to go to McDonald's all the time and sit and order cup after cup of coffee with all of his crony friends. That's a really bad word to use. But he loved sitting at McDonald's, and because he was so cheap. Sorry, Dad. He was cheap. He grew up in the Depression. I think I got some of that cheapness from him, but he grew up in the Depression, and they didn't have anything. So he would go to the McDonald's and he would sit there and drink his coffee and get cup after cup. And so my husband always makes sure that there's McDonald's coffee for my dad, but this time we didn't. And so we just put regular coffee. So sorry, Dad, this year you didn't get McDonald's. You'll get McDonald's next year. So everybody, sorry I went off at the end about the altar. But thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around this long. And I'll see you next week.